Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's live Google Business Profile Audits. I am Jenny, I'm BrightLocal's Social and Community Manager, and I am hosting today's session with Danny. We've actually got loads of people joining us today, which is really, really exciting. So what I'd love everyone here to do is to say hello in the live chat and let us know where you are dialing in from. What you will need to do is use the drop down under where it currently says hosts and panelists. If you click that little blue drop down and choose everyone, then it means that everyone in the live chat can see your messages. For some reason, it defaults to hosts and panelists. So it'd be really great if you could choose chat with everyone and we can all see your messages. So we've got people from Seattle, from Austin, from Memphis, Kingston, Ontario, Canada, St. Louis, Ann Arbor, New Jersey. Oh my goodness, we've got people calling from everywhere. Is there anyone UK based? Yes, we've got someone from Birmingham, UK. That's really Sheffield, UK as well. South Africa. Oh my goodness. Okay, well, I could spend all day reading all of these locations out. So it's really, really cool to see everyone here joining us today. So thank you again. Before we get started, I just need to go through some housekeeping. This webinar will be recorded, so you can return to it at any point. It will be sent to you via email. You can also find it on our website or on our YouTube channel. It might be uploaded probably tomorrow now, so it might not get instant access, but I guarantee you this is being recorded and you will be able to re-watch it. So today, what's going to happen is Danny's going to look at 3 different businesses, audit their Google business profiles and look at their websites. He's going to provide some ideas around optimization and show you his process for auditing. We're then going to end with a Q&A. So what you can do is ask your questions in the Q&A box. You will find that button at the bottom of this screen. I'm pointing somewhere, it might be where it is on your screen. What you can also do is upvote the Q&As, the questions that you want asked and the questions that have the most upvotes. I will post them to Danny at the end and we'll get through as many as we can. So without further ado, I'm really pleased to introduce to you Danny Leibrandt. Danny, hello, would you like to introduce yourself?
Absolutely, Jenny. Thank you so much for having me. It is great to be on this webinar today and so great to have so many people on this webinar. I wasn't sure how many people would be here, but so far we've already got 120 people. So this is just awesome. I can't wait for this. So yeah, I'll give a little bit of background about myself. So I am the founder of Pest Control SEO, which is a digital marketing agency for pest control companies, mainly doing SEO, but also some social media, some advertising, some other adjacent things that we're doing for pest control companies. We've worked with pest control companies from $10,000 a year to $100 million a year, like it says on the screen here. So really seen it all in the pest control space and also home services as a whole. So I've worked with flooring companies, HVAC companies, pool service companies, basically you name it in home services, I've worked with them. So yeah, I feel like I have a pretty good background in local SEO. So excited to be on this webinar. And also you may recognize me from LinkedIn or Facebook or my podcast, Local Marketing Secrets. So I've had a lot of the top people in local SEO and local marketing there. And yeah, it's been awesome. I absolutely love the space and I'm ready to jump in.
Woohoo. Yeah, that's really great. Thank you so much. Yeah, really, really excited. And yeah, as you mentioned, you've got a whole host of experience. So I know everyone in this session today is going to absolutely learn something. So that's, yeah, it's going to be great. Yeah, really, really ready to kick off when you are. Just a reminder, yeah, if anyone has got questions, pop them in the Q&A section for the end. But yeah, Danny, I'll let you kick off.
All right, cool. We'll get going here. So I'll hit share screen here. And just give me 1 second. I'm used to Google Meet, like I was telling you before we got started here. So just give me one moment here. Go full screen, entire screen. Okay, and we're good. You can see my screen here, Jenny.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, perfect. So there's one thing that I wanted to cover, or at least one thing in mind that I want to cover before we jump into it. And what I want to cover is I want to make sure that everyone knows how to access their Google Business Profile dashboard. This is something super simple, but I feel like there's a good amount of owners that I know that either don't know how to access it or they don't have access to theirs. So obviously, if we're doing any optimization on the profile directly, we need to have access to it. So this might feel a little fundamental to some people. Just bear with me, and then we'll get into the audit. So if you don't know how to access your Google Business Profile, I'd say there are really two main ways to go about this. So if you are logged into the email that is associated with the profile, which you can add as many emails and users to your profile as you want, but there has to be a user. You have to be logged into an email account that has access to that Google Business Profile. So the easy way to do it, and this is how I access my profile and clients' profiles very easily, is I am currently logged in under my email account associated with my agency profile. So I can just go ahead and search up Pest Control SEO, and then immediately my Google Business Profile dashboard that shows up. So this is what it looks like. Hopefully you've seen the screen before, and we can see that there are all these different things to edit across the profile. So, there's edit profile and all these things here. We can ask for reviews here. So first off, I want to make sure that everyone knows this, that in order to edit the profile to really do anything meaningful here, we need to be able to access the profile and get to this dashboard here. So I just want to make sure we're on the same page there. And then the other way to do it is you can also go ahead here. Let me move this down here. You can go ahead and search up Google Business Profile or Google Business Profile Manager. It's keyboard's lagging for some reason. So once we search this up and we go to the first one, we should be able to sign in. And now you can see this is actually my wrong email account. So this is what happens with a lot of owners is that, or maybe even you're a marketer and you're checking, you're like, wait, I can't see my Google Business Profile. It's because you're not with the email account that is associated with that Google Business Profile. So this is my personal email account. This is me just making a random profile. This is my my podcast agency and just a random flooring company. But once I go to Danny at pestcontrolseo.com, then I can access all these different accounts. And we can see in our Google Business Profile Manager, all of our different locations. And this is also very important, especially if you're an owner, to see all of your different locations in one spot. So I just want to make sure that that's clear. Everyone can access their Google Business Profile, and now we can move on. So the first one we are going to look at is Paramount Construction. So kind of a little bit biased. I did pick 3 home service companies for this audit. I hope you guys don't mind because I'm mainly in home services. Did not keep it solely pest control, even though I'm mainly pest control. But honestly, kind of like a trade secret here is that most of the home services doing SEO in most of these home services is just about the same. There might be slight nuances in what the keywords are and what the areas are, what the competition is like. But overall, they are fairly similar. So that's just kind of something to note there. So yeah, we'll jump into the first one here. And the first one that I chose was Paramount Construction. So I'll go ahead and close these out, and then I'll go ahead and search that up. So Paramount Construction. Oh, okay, actually, I guess I might have to use the BrightLocal link. We can go to the Google Maps as well. Paramount Construction. And I believe they had about 30 reviews. Oh, that's interesting. Now they're not showing up. Paramount Construction. Okay, well, we'll jump to the next one. I'll kind of figure that out in the meantime. Okay, let's go to ARC Wildlife Control, or actually Wildlife Removal. So that would be, yeah, maybe I'm using a word there. Do you know what I'm doing wrong there, Jenny? It's Paramount Construction, right? That's the company name.
Yeah, we're just going to check our spreadsheet of data. So yeah, we can come back to that one once we've
Oh,
configured
okay,
yeah,
cool.
we'll get the URL for you.
Okay. I guess I need the exact link there. That's kind of annoying because it's not showing the profiles now. So we'll go to ARC Wildlife Removal here. Okay, so here is the second profile that I wanted to check out. So again, I'm mainly pest control. Wildlife is kind of adjacent, so I always like doing some adjacent categories. So on this profile, we can see a few different things. The first thing that stands out to me right away, and the first thing that I always look at when I'm auditing profiles, is how many reviews do you have? Now, obviously, this is going to depend on your competition, like everything else in SEO. So really, this is like a kind of a baseline standard for everything that you're doing in SEO is it's always relative to what your competitors are doing. So I don't think there's a one size fits all when it comes to reviews or backlinks or authority or blogs or whatever. We need to understand what our competitors are doing in order to then assess, okay, well, it it makes sense. Okay, well, we can crush it in this area with 12 reviews versus 100. You know, there are going to be categories that are much more competitive versus ones that aren't. So we can take a look at the competition in this area in a second. So yeah, I'll just cover the different categories a little bit more. So pest control is very competitive. It's some of these Google Business Profiles might have a few thousand reviews. I know a company that is just getting started in Phoenix, and they are having a lot of trouble just getting started. They have over 100 reviews and they are still struggling because there's some huge competition. There is a profile with 3,000 reviews, 5,000 reviews, 4,000 reviews, 1,500, all of these massive profiles. So that's also something to account for, is you have to be looking first off, like, because this is kind of the easiest competitive factor we can look at. And obviously reviews are so huge. We want to take a look at what the reviews are in the area. So immediately when I look at this, I say, oh, well, 12 reviews, that's pretty low. But actually, if it's compared to the other wildlife removal services in the area, and the other ones have 5 and 6 and 2, then 12 actually works. And wildlife removal, they're usually doing less jobs. It's usually more high ticket. So I expect them to have less reviews. But we can take a look at their area that they're serving. So let's see. I believe it was in Massachusetts. Or we can actually take a look at their website here. Okay, so ARC wildlife removal. Now, another thing that I want to mention and really, I guess, emphasize is that your Google Business Profile ranking is not just dependent on what you're doing on the Google Business Profile dashboard. It's not just about what you're optimizing on the profile. So like I showed you at the beginning of the webinar of how you can go into your dashboard and edit all these different things and ask for reviews. That's great. And there's a good amount of things that we can do there. But that is only, I see it as only about half of what goes into ranking your Google Business Profile. And most people, I feel like, don't know this or don't acknowledge this, but the other half is your website, and that is your website as a whole, and also specifically the page that you are linking to. So again, everyone's saying like, oh, well, you know, how do I optimize the profile? And, you know, we need to add 100 more services. And okay, I guess we need to add more Q&As and such. But there is a limit on how much you do on the profile. It is pretty minimal. Like, again, if I go to my profile, you know, there is, you know, these different categories here. This takes like, you know, 15 minutes. We can add photos that might take 30 minutes, or maybe we have to collect them and that takes longer. We might want to add products here if that makes sense for your company. We'll want to add services here if that makes sense, which we will. We'll want to add our top keywords and such here. But overall, it will only take, if you have a process around this like we do, it will really only take about a few hours to get that initial optimization for your profile. So in that way, there's not actually much we can do here, at least initially. Obviously, as we continue to move forward, we'll want to continue to add more photos and continue to add more reviews, ask for more reviews and reply to those reviews. But other than the initial optimization and then photos and reviews, there's not too much that we can do on the profile. So we want to be looking pretty heavily at the website, and that is the website as a whole and the page itself. So the page that you link to, so we just clicked on the page linked here for ARC wildlife removal. This is the page that they're linking to. So this looks like this is their homepage because it's not linking to any particular page. It's just arcwildliferemoval.com. And then this is a UTM source code, which this is completely fine. This won't hurt rankings. We usually recommend that clients and prospects do this just so we can see. And overall, we just want to be tracking everything of how many people are coming to our website from Google Business Profile versus Facebook versus Yelp versus these other platforms. Especially when you're doing so many different kinds of lead generation, and also potentially if you have several Google Business Profiles, then we want to see which ones are doing the best. If we're spending a lot of time on one, are we getting ROI on that? So I'm also a big advocate for tracking as a whole. I know I'm kind of talking big picture here, but I feel like this is how we have to think about things. So now we'll get a bit more granular and let's talk about the page that they are linking to. So the page that they are linking to, the first thing that I look at, and also I kind of want to go through this audit through my eyes. I don't, there's not like a checklist of, oh, well, here's what we got to do here, here, here. I want you to see how I analyze it when I go through a website or a Google Business Profile for the first time. So personally, the first thing that I do when I go to the website page that we link to is I will check this tool, Meta SEO Inspector. Now, there are many different tools that do this. I feel like almost no one uses this one. There are a lot prettier ones, but this is personally the one I use. Regardless, this is how we see the metadata across the page and seeing things like the headings, the title, the meta description, and all of those things. And overall, how I see this is how we are communicating to Google about what the page is about. So the first and really main thing that we want to look at least initially, this is a super easy thing that we want to check, is what is the title of the page? The title of the page is how we communicate to Google of what the page is about. So the head title here is Animal Removal dash Raccoon, Squirrel, Skunk, and Bats, ARC Wildlife Removal, Cape Cod. Now this is good, and I actually should provide a preface here that with each Google Business Profile, we actually should be linking to the designated location page. So ideally, and there's a little bit of controversy around this with the diversity update. I'm not sure if you guys have seen this, but still, I recommend that we link to the website page that is most associated or most relevant to that specific Google Business Profile. So again, I'm always talking pest control. If you have a pest control company in Chicago, if your main Google Business Profile is in Chicago, then you would link to your pest control Chicago page, or maybe you just have a general Chicago page. But typically, we like to disperse that out across the different services that we provide. So it might make sense to do a pest control Chicago page, then a termite control Chicago page, ant control Chicago page. But pest control is really that top level category that all of those other services fit into pest control. Then, we might have another Google Business Profile. Let's say it's more north and we really have only wildlife control technicians there. Then it might make sense to link to our wildlife control page instead. So there's some nuance there, but overall, we should be linking to the website page that is most relevant. So I typically don't recommend linking to the homepage, especially if we do have several Google Business Profiles. I believe this is the only profile for this this is the only profile and location for this company. So they don't have to worry about it too much, but still just as a general recommendation, and really just something that you need to consider is that Google is looking at what is on the page that you are linking to. Google is actually looking at this. So Google sees that you link to this page. Okay, well, what's on that page? Is it relevant? And I've actually seen some pretty crazy ranking boosts just from changing the page that we link to. So something simple like changing it from the home page to the relevant location page. I have seen, and that's it's making a difference because let's say we add kind of a unique keyword on the location page. Like let's say it's like exterminators near me or Chicago exterminator, and we were never ranking on that before, but then we put that on a heading in the location page, and then all of a sudden we start ranking on that, then there's like no question that what we're putting on the location page heavily influences the Google Business Profile. And obviously that's not just me saying that everyone basically agrees on this consensus. So I guess that would actually be the first mistake here, is that we should be linking to the location page for this company. So that would be, I believe they're in Massachusetts. So that would be, actually, let's see, okay, they kind of do this whole general area. So they don't have a specific location. But let's say they were based in Plymouth and their main service is wildlife removal. Then ideally, they should be linking to a Plymouth wildlife removal page, because now we have all of that relevance and it's much easier to rank on that keyword. When Google sees, okay, well, who are we going to show for Plymouth wildlife removal? Okay, well, we're going to show ARC wildlife removal because they have it in their business name. They are linking to the correct location page. They have all these other things. But again, I just feel like everyone's so focused on optimizing the Google Business Profile, but we also have to look at the location page that we're linking to. So again, I might want to check the other profiles, or I guess, the last one that we want to check here. And we might go into others in the list, but we want to be checking the metadata across this page. So regardless, I'll still show you this and see kind of, and think about it from Google's perspective of when Google crawls this page, when Google sees that we link to this page from our Google Business Profile, what does it tell Google about what this page is about? And because we're linking to it from our Google Business Profile, that inherently says what our Google Business Profile is about as well. So I'll go back into this tool here. And by the way, this is a free Chrome extension, Meta SEO Inspector, if you'd like to get it. Okay, so again, we covered the head title, which is super important. The meta description doesn't directly play into rankings, but that's more for conversions and just, I guess, informing the search engines and such. So it doesn't influence rankings too much, but usually we want to have our top keywords in here as well. So for their homepage, which what I recommend typically for homepages is optimizing for your brand. So your homepage should be talking all about, in this case, ARC wildlife removal. If anyone searches up your company name, your homepage of your website should very clearly show up. Every time someone searches your company, your homepage should show up. I see a lot of companies do this where they optimize their homepage for one of their main keywords, and then Google's confused, and then you end up setting up a page for one of your other top keywords, or the same top keyword, and now Google isn't really sure. It's like, well, which one do I rank? I guess I just won't rank either of them. It gets really complex. Overall, what I like to follow, and this is what Kyle Roof says, one of the top people in local SEO and on-page SEO specifically, is that it should be one concept per page. So we don't want to overwhelm our homepage of like talking about everything. On our homepage, we should just talk about us and our company. And then on like a wildlife removal Plymouth page, we're talking all about wildlife removal Plymouth. That is the way to think about it. Now we can dive into the headings across the page, which obviously this is kind of nuanced because this is the home page, which ideally we'd be doing this off a location page. So we'll see, we're going to do Kinsey Plumbing next, and we'll see if that applies to them. But overall, we can still kind of take a look at these headings and see what would Google pull from this? Like how would Google understand this page? So something I like about this tool is that it will give you some warnings here of there are too many H1s. So we should always have one H1 per page. And overall, the main keyword that we are trying to target, okay, so there should always be one main primary keyword per page that we are ranking on. And we choose that by seeing which ones have the most volume. And occasionally, if one is much less competitive, then we go for that one. So I'll go ahead and show you this in something like SEMrush. We can go ahead and go to keyword overview. And again, I'm always talking pest control Chicago because pest control is my niche and I'm from Chicago. So let's search pest control Chicago here. And if we go to these keywords here, we can see that Pest Control Chicago has 1,900 keywords. Chicago Pest Control has 590 keywords. So Pest Control Chicago, if you had a pest control company in Chicago, you would by far want to choose this keyword over the other ones because it has way more volume, and the KD, the keyword difficulty, is just about the same. So this one is 43, this one is 40. Okay, Rose Pest Control, but that is actually a pest control company. So then we obviously don't want to rank on that. That is a brand term. Pest Control Chicago IL, 320, Pest Control in Chicago. So I also want to make sure that people understand this, that every single little nuance in a keyword, something as simple as Pest Control Chicago versus Chicago Pest Control, that is a completely different keyword. So first, we want to go into something like SEMrush or Ahrefs or whatever you'd like and check out what are your top keywords? Like, what do we want to be ranking on? What are your prospects searching? And then how can we show up for that? So what I'm saying in relation to setting up these location pages is that we need to identify the top primary keyword that we want to target, make a location page for that, in order to rank the Google Business Profile for that term. I hope you're like kind of getting what I'm putting down or picking up what I'm putting down, that this is how we rank for our top keyword for our Google Business Profile. Again, this is one of the ways we can jump into other ways that we're ranking it, but I've watched a lot of these BrightLocal audits, and I wanted to make sure that I provide a different perspective here. I know a lot of people talk all about what can we do on the profile, but I also do want to kind of explain how does the website play into this as well. So again, we'll jump more into this as we go along. So let's do it for this company then. And again, the wildlife keywords, because I've worked with a few wildlife companies, wildlife keywords are usually much less. But we can still check it here. So let's say they wanted to do Plymouth, or let's see, are there any bigger, or maybe we can do Boston because Boston's a bigger city. I'm sure these smaller cities might not have much traffic. So wildlife removal, and that would be Boston. Okay, we have broad match here. And we can see that wildlife removal Boston even doesn't have much, many searches. And something, honestly, that I've consulted and recommended to some wildlife removal companies is changing their category to pest control service instead, because so many more people are searching pest control. So I'll show you right now. So Boston wildlife removal is the top keyword. Wildlife removal Boston is the second. Both those have 20 volume. And then Pest Control Boston, let's check that out. This has 1,000 searches. And then this second one has 720 searches. This next one has 390 searches. This is a brand, 210, 90. So there are many more searches for this. So when you're thinking about your company, maybe you have a really niche service, something like wildlife removal that not many people are searching, but maybe that fits into a broader category that you can target. So again, wildlife removal could technically be part of a pest control category, where a good amount of people that are searching for pest control, they might be searching that for the skunks in their yard or the raccoons in their attic or such. They might be searching pest control for that, but you might actually classify that more as wildlife removal. So that's also something we have to keep in mind, is if we have a fairly niche service, then that might actually, we might have to optimize for top level keywords instead of those bottom level ones. And there is some nuance to this as well. Pest control Boston is going to be more competitive. There are going to be much more people trying to rank on this keyword because there are much more searches for it. So if you're a smaller company, in some senses and in some ways, it might actually make sense. It might actually make more sense to target those lower level keywords because no one else is targeting them. So this is just like that. It's not one prescription fits all. Just think about this for your company of, okay, we need to do some keyword research, see what the top keywords we want to rank on are, and then we can rank our Google Business Profile. I hear this all the time from clients and prospects and such. They're like, oh, well, rank me number one on Google. And why aren't I ranking number one? It's like, it's not exactly that simple. There's a lot more nuance to this of, first off, are we ranking the Google Business Profile or are we ranking the website? Okay, well, what keywords are we ranking for the Google Business Profile? What keywords for the website? There's a ton of different nuance in those two fields and categories. So we have to get clear first on what is our objective. Do we want to rank on Pest Control Boston, or is it just Wildlife Removal Boston, or is it Wildlife Control Boston, or is it another word? We want to figure out what that top keyword is, and obviously after that, then we can find out the secondary keywords, and then we can optimize accordingly. So hopefully that was useful, and I'll continue to jump into this page here. So again, the search engines and I guess the crawlers of Google and other search engines are looking at first, or one of the first things they're looking at is what are the headings on the page. And I always like to say, like I said previously, the headings on the page are how you communicate to Google and search engines and even LLMs, large language models like ChatGPT, of what the page is about. So you might have a ton of text and a ton of paragraphs and such, but if your headings aren't clearly communicating what the page is about, then it doesn't really matter. We have to make sure that we have a really solid title targeting our primary keyword. We have to make sure that we have a really solid H1 and only one of them. and that is targeting our primary keyword. And then we have a lot of H2s and a good amount of H3s and maybe even some H4s of all of our supporting keywords and our supporting topics. So for this one, we have Cape Cod animal removal. And again, like I recommended and like I mentioned earlier, I recommend optimizing your homepage for your primary, or actually your homepage for your brand. So really, this should actually be their brand name here. But for sake of this, let's say this was their location page, then it should be something like Boston wildlife removal or Boston pest control or whatever keyword is the top one that they want to target there in this H1 and in the title. And this is like, I guess, a little known secret in SEO, but the title and the H1 are incredibly important to all of the pages that you are trying to rank. If you have the primary keyword exactly, so again, if that's Pest Control Boston, if you have exactly Pest Control Boston in your title and in your H1, then you are going to be much more likely to rank on it. And now that is your website, that is the website page, but that will also influence how your Google Business Profile is ranking, because Google, again, is looking at what page you are linking to, and it is going to see, wow, okay, this page is all about Boston Pest Control. Okay, so I'm going to help your Google Business Profile and your website rank for Boston Pest Control. Again, there's a little nuance there with the diversity update of some people are saying, and there's some research that's been done by people like Joy Hawkins, that Google has occasionally only been showing the website or the Google Business Profile. So this is something that we're going to have to stay up to date with. But overall, I still recommend prospects and clients to link to the most relevant page, because it's much easier to rank your Google Business Profile rather than the website page. So what I see for most pest control companies and other home service companies that I'm working with is that their location pages aren't ranking at all, or they might be ranking, position 30 or 50 or whatever. So they're not getting any traffic from it. But their Google Business Profile is doing pretty good, but it could get a nice boost from linking to a more relevant page. So usually that's what we recommend. Again, there's a little nuance here, because if the location page is doing really well, then maybe we don't want to link to it, because that might actually hurt the traffic. So that's something that we have to take on a case-by-case basis. Okay, I don't want to spend too much time here, but overall, I mean, I'm doing a very in-depth analysis and overall demonstration here because I want this to be applicable for any company. I don't want this to be like, oh, well, ARC, this is exactly what you should do. Like, no, that generally we should all be looking at the headings, and we should be looking at what are the primary keywords that we want to target and what are the reviews like. How does that compare to other people in the area? So hopefully I'm making this useful for everyone in this call. Okay, so going through the headings, we can see that the structure is a little off. This is immediately a red flag that, okay, there's an H2 here, and there's an H6 here, and then there's H3s and H2s. So naturally, if you've ever written like a serious essay or something, you'll know that obviously you start with the H1, then you go to H2, then H3 under H2, then you might go to another H2, but it has to be in order. This just makes it easier for the search engines to understand. So when it's all over the place like this, then it's harder for the search engines to understand, like H2, whoa, H6, okay, and then this tool says found H6, found H3 expected. So I'd encourage you on your top pages, especially the location pages that you're linking to from your top Google Business Profiles, check what are the headings on the page, and what are they communicating to Google, and are they abundantly clear of what the page is about. So, this is okay. They're listing all the services that they do: common animals, raccoons, squirrels, skunks, bats, flying. I guess maybe they split up flying squirrels here. Let's see, where's that at? Oh, okay, yeah. So they split that up. This is another common problem, that someone might click return, and then that ends up as two different headings. So again, we want to be looking at this from the search engine's point of view. How is this data getting analyzed? And obviously the search engines are getting smarter, LLMs are getting smarter, but we want to make this as easy as possible for them to understand. And now throughout the page, latest news, okay, exclusive installer, evict, and it looks like those are supposed to be together. These are supposed to be together. So this is all like messed up and confusing. We want to make sure that this heading structure is abundantly clear. So let's say that this was the wildlife removal, let's see, wildlife removal Boston page. Then at the top here, I would have for the H1, wildlife removal Boston, assuming that's the primary keyword. Then we would have the supporting keywords under that. So wildlife removal Boston, then it would make sense to talk about, maybe the different kind of wildlife that we deal with. Okay, that makes sense. But then we'd have an H2 above this saying, here are the, yeah, okay. So they have that here, but this is an H3. This should be an H2. And then that makes sense. Okay, common animals we trap and remove. Okay, and here's a list of all of them that we service. And then we can think about other things of how we can provide as much information and have ultimately I'd like to think of it as like the complete guide to whatever that topic may be. So we want to have the complete guide to wildlife removal Boston. So what are the main FAQs? What are the top wildlife that we service in that area? What are some pictures of them? Can we show videos? Can we hear from the founder? Can we hear from the technicians? What is going on with wildlife in the area? What do we know? What do we need to know seasonally? How does our company operate personally? And maybe our company operates slightly differently in different areas. How do we go about doing wildlife removal in Boston? But overall, I hope what I'm making clear to you is that the page should be all about that topic. So we have the primary keyword in the H1 in the title, and then all of the supporting information throughout the page. And that should be what is on the page that we link to from the Google Business Profile. And we can do, so we took a look at the primary keyword here. Now let's take a look at how strong their domain is. Now, I'm guessing it's not too strong, but we can take a look here. And this is kind of the other component that I wanted to make clear to you, is that it's not just about the page that we link to, but it's also about the overall authority that we have as a website and as a company and as an entity. So if you don't know, Google understands things by entities and how entities relate to each other. So you can understand entities as a noun, which would be a person, place, or thing. So I am an entity. So if you search my name, you can see that Google understands me as an entity because it shows a knowledge panel here. It's like, okay, this is clearly Danny's LinkedIn and he's been on a podcast and here are his social profiles and here's his personal website. Google understands me as an entity. So again, this one's kind of tough because a lot of people will just say that we want to get as much authority score or domain rating or whatever you'd like to call it here. That is important, but that's not all of it. We can cover that now, and we'll get into the entity a little bit after that. So the authority score here on SEMrush, again, these will vary. So it's authority score on SEMrush, it's domain rating on Ahrefs, which these are really the two main tools. I personally prefer SEMrush for this kind of thing, but there are other tools if you'd like to use them. So we can go into authority score here, and they have a 2 out of 100, and we can see that they have basically no link power, no organic traffic, but they do have a maxed out natural profile. So I hate to kind of be the bearer of bad news, but the natural profile doesn't really matter. Just about every company that I look at already has this maxed out, just showing basically you are a real company instead of maybe an affiliate site or something like that. So what we need to be thinking about here to build up the authority on our site and therefore boost up our Google Business Profile, because again, remember, both of these two are heavily related and connected. Again, if your website is ranking better and doing better, that is going to help your Google Business Profile as well. So we need to keep this in mind. And looking at the authority score here on SEMrush, it is mainly looking at link power and organic traffic. So right now, the link power is low and the organic traffic is low. Again, if we go back to our main screen here. Oh, okay, this is another company, my bad. Let's go back here. Let's go to ARC Wildlife Removal.
Danny, sorry to butt in. Just wanted to let you know, quick time check. We've got 20 minutes left. So I don't know if you wanted to touch on any of the other businesses. Didn't want to disrupt your flow. But yeah, 20 minutes left. We've got a ton of amazing questions as well. So yeah, up to you on kind of how you want to sort of play it out. But yeah, it would be really good to get through lots of questions.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, my bad. I usually like to go on tangents here. I could talk about this stuff all day. Okay,
I
so
love it.
let's move on to the next one. We'll at least cover Kinsey Plumbing. I don't want to spend all day
Brilliant.
on ARC. Um, okay, so let's go to, and I guess we'll have to go to this on Maps. For some reason, it wasn't showing on normal Google search. So the next one we had was Kinsey Plumbing. Now, this company actually seemed like they were doing a great job. They seem fairly big. I think they've been in business for a while. So we can see that they have two Google business profiles here, and both of them have almost 1,000 reviews. So they're doing really great. And I kind of chose this company intentionally because I wanted to show that there are still things to improve upon despite being a massive company. Or, I consider anything around the 1,000+ reviews fairly big. So we can take a look at this profile, and let's go through here. Okay, so I'm seeing, and I'll just kind of take a general look at this, then we can take a stab at individual things. So we can see that they have an update from December here. That's probably the most recent one. They have maybe one Q&A. How many Q&As? Okay, they have some Q&As. They have a 4.9 out of, well, they have a 4.9 out of 5. That's 1,000 reviews. This is incredibly powerful. And I think people value reviews, but I don't think they value them enough. Again, everyone wants to go in the little nuances of how do I add more services and okay, do I need to add more products to my Google business profile? But we can't underestimate how important reviews are to the profile. So we want to make sure that we have as many reviews as possible and that we have a high rating. So what I wanted to cover for the first profile that we were going to cover, for some reason it wasn't showing up, but Paramount Construction, not to call them out or anything, but they had a 3.0 out of 5 stars. And really the easiest and the main recommendation that I have for them is that we need to get that 3.0 to at least a 4, ideally a 4.5. If you are under 4 out of 5 stars, we need to get that up to a 4. And now ideally, I recommend getting at least to a 4.5. So being something like this, a 4.9 is incredible. And also, you don't need to worry so much about like, oh, well, one person left me a bad review. One of my buddies is running one of my buddies is running his dad's construction company. And they're like, oh, we got a 1-star review. Like our whole company is ruined. Like we can't move forward. We have to get rid of it. Do you know how to report it? And I'm like, yeah, well, I can help you report it, but know that this isn't like life changing. It's not going to ruin your profile. It's not going to ruin your rankings. People actually kind of expect some bad reviews, but we just have to make sure that we are replying to them appropriately and that we're acknowledging them publicly and privately, that we give them, hey, oh, okay, you had a horrible experience, okay, we actually just fired that technician because he's been doing a horrible job. We're so sorry. We'll give you the next service for free. We'll come out personally, whatever. You have to make sure that you make it right, and that maybe you can actually ask them to edit the review, and that's something else that we can do. So I'll take a look at the newest reviews here. This is something that I like to do. Okay, so they have one from an hour ago, 16 hours ago. See, we've already found a bad review here. Okay, so I had an appointment scheduled. This technician finally showed up at 6 p.m. Obviously bad for $400. Yeah, okay, so this is a fairly good response. This is unacceptable, and if you could please email me at Brandon. I would like to publicly acknowledge and apologize more. This seems like kind of trivial, but we do really want to show people how we are dealing with bad reviews and bad customer experience. And this is actually why for our agency, we do not deal with reviews directly, because we believe that everything customer facing should be handled by the company itself. So, me as the agency owner, let's say this was my client. Well, I don't know about the technician showing up late. I mean, I can apologize all I want. I could generate like a huge apology with ChatGPT, but I don't know what's actually going on. And I'm not necessarily qualified to speak on their behalf. So if you are the agency, you probably shouldn't be replying to the reviews. You need to encourage the local business to reply to them themselves. They need to, maybe it's the founder if they're small, or maybe it's an office manager or someone of that sort, but someone who is involved with the day-to-day needs to be acknowledging these bad reviews. And I would like to have something longer here of, we are so sorry, it will never happen again. I'm sure they're saying that in private, and they're reaching out privately, but we want to make sure that we're acknowledging this publicly as well. And again,
Can I
that's
just ask, do you need to include keywords and locations in those review replies?
not in, at least from what I've seen. So
Mm.
I've been running my agency for a while. I've talked with a lot of the top people in local SEO. So just from my experience and what I've seen and what I've heard from the top people in the space is that the replies don't really matter for keywords, but the review itself does matter for keywords. So it feels a little bit awkward to incentivize that, but if you can just get them to maybe mention the city or something like that of, hey, we have plenty of locations, but if you could just mention, hey, it was great working with, Danny's Pest Control in Chicago. They're like just prompting them a little bit there. And I'll guess I'll share a strategy here as well, that at least for home service local businesses like this, assuming we're a little bit smaller and we're not using like a crazy review automation or anything, we usually recommend asking for reviews in person after the service. There's a super high conversion rate on this, and it makes complete sense because it's pretty hard to say no to someone in person, especially if they already provided a great service. Like, your maybe your air conditioning system was down, or you just had like a big ant invasion, whatever, and someone came over and fixed that problem for you. If they just politely ask, and they're being nice, they're petting the dog and such, if they just politely ask for a review, then you will likely get one. But you have to also make sure that you stay on site and wait until they finish it. This is something that my dad was running into, that he owns a flooring company, and after every single job, he would say, hey, would you mind leaving us a 5-star review on Google? I'd really appreciate it. And everyone says yes. And then he leaves and they don't leave a review. So we want to make sure that we stay there until they leave the review. Or otherwise people just forget. Everyone has like, classically the attention span of a goldfish. So we want to make sure that we're getting it right then, right there. Otherwise, people probably won't leave the review. And obviously, if you're a bigger company, like maybe this might even apply to Kinsey, that now we're using more automation, and for pest control companies, that's something like Applause. But usually we like to be asking in person, and that just builds up our culture. We can incentivize our technicians and such. So that's generally what I recommend. For other aspects of reviews, this company is crushing it on reviews. So something else that most people don't acknowledge here regarding reviews, because reviews are so important, is it's only about the total volume, or it's only about the rating. Like, oh, well, we have 1,000 reviews, or, oh, we have a 4.9. But we also need to be looking at the recency and consistency. So what I'm seeing, at least, in the past day or so, they got one an hour ago. It's a bad one, but 16 hours ago. 21 hours ago, a day ago, a day ago, a day ago, 2 days ago, 2 days ago, 2 days ago, 3 days ago. Like, wow, I mean, even though, this company is actually getting bad reviews here, they're still getting a lot of reviews coming in. And this is a huge ranking factor. I saw this with one company. Let's see, this might have been Orem, Utah or something. This one company was crushing all of their competitors in a super competitive area. So it might have been Phoenix. I forget the area, but regardless, this company had 100 reviews and was going against companies with 1,000 reviews, but they were outranking everyone else because they were getting reviews more consistently and more recent than the other companies. So again, I'll give another example. This client that I have that has a Google business profile in Orem, Utah, that was the one I was thinking of. He hasn't gotten a review on his profile in 30 weeks. So he has a lot of locations, to be fair, and he has to disperse them and figure those out. But he's like, Danny, why isn't this profile ranking? And I'm like, Seth, if we don't get a review in 30 weeks, we can't expect to rank, man. So we have to make sure that we're getting reviews somewhat consistently. It's going to depend on the company and how competitive it is and what's the demand for the service. As a general threshold, we like to see at least one a week, but if we can see something like one a day of like we're seeing here for Kinsey, then that is fantastic.
And do you have any tips on, there's a question from Cody here that I just wanted to ask while we're talking about reviews. Has found that clients aren't actually interested in putting in the work to actually get the reviews, even though they've put together comprehensive, easy to follow review acquisition plans, but really struggling to get the client on board with it. Like, do you have any tips on getting the clients to actually follow through with that?
Mm. Yeah, so you have to demonstrate the value. So you might have to do a whole walkthrough like I'm doing here because there's just a lack of understanding. If first off, obviously you need to be somewhat of an expert or an authority figure for someone to listen to you. But assuming you are that and you're the person in local SEO, you've been in it for at least a few years and such, then they should trust your opinion. So I think that's almost first off, like the problem isn't necessarily that the client isn't listening to you, but it's that you might not be someone worth listening to. That's kind of hard to stomach, but we need to be the authority figure. Maybe it's not you, but someone else who's a local SEO on your team telling them, hey, reviews are incredibly important. If we don't get reviews, you are not going to rank. Look at all the top people that are ranking really well in your area. All of them have more reviews than you. We need reviews. Like I need to make this as simple as possible for people because it's just, I have to say it a million times and it feels complex. But reviews is huge, and we need to make that as abundantly clear as possible to clients.
Awesome, thank you.
Cool. Yeah, yeah. Okay. So yeah, I guess we can jump into more Q&A here. I know I was kind of all around here. I apologize. I can be like that, but yeah, I guess we can jump into a Q&A for the last 8 minutes here or so.
Yeah, fab, thank you. Yeah, no, obviously really, really great to kind of look at all of those different aspects and especially to look into some of that website stuff and actually talking about keywords and headers and it's all so important alongside the business profile stuff. Cool, some quick questions then. Are locations with a physical address ranked higher than service-based listings? If yes, how do you compete with that?
Oh, absolutely. So this is so huge. You really need a location. And actually, that's what I wanted to touch on with Kinsey. I didn't have enough time here, but I believe at least that location that I was looking at, that Kinsey location or that Kinsey profile didn't have a location. So unfortunately, even though they have all those reviews, again, it varies in each industry. It might not be as prevalent in some, but because what I'm mainly in pest control. Pest control is super competitive, and most companies have come to be aware of this. So most of them have a location. They are literally buying an office just to place their Google Business Profile there because they know that there's such a ranking boost from it. And you can do this in your area. I encourage you to do this. I always encourage people to do their own research. It's not like, one size fits all or anything, but search in your area, your top keywords. So, if it's pest control near me, pest control Chicago, exterminator Chicago, whatever, and see who are the top people that are coming up. And you could also use something like BrightLocal and check out, who are the top competitors on the list and see, do these people have a location? And you'll see very clearly right away that there will be a directions button for those. So some industries I've actually seen people get away with it. And I know a company, where is he? He's somewhere in the middle of nowhere in like Wyoming. And he doesn't have a location, but he didn't need one because he only had two competitors in the area. It was like a very small city. So he actually doesn't need to worry about that because, on the map pack, classically, you want to show up on the top three. So he's going to show up on the top three regardless for, his wildlife removal company and some pest control keywords as well. I think the second part of that question, or at least what was hinted, was how do you go about getting that location? There are many different ways to do it. So what's typically advised and the safe route to go about that is buying an actual legit physical location. So that would be like $500 to $1,000 a month, and that might be in like a shared office building or something similar. And That is kind of the safe way to do it. You can be pretty confident that your profile won't get taken down, that Google is happy with it, that you can place it as your location, even if you are technically a service business, as in you are going to clients rather than clients coming to you. That is perfectly safe as long as, ideally we can like collect mail there and we can put a sign on the door and such. Other ways that I've seen people go about this, some people are still using their home address, which I see kind of rarely works now, and I don't recommend. But if you are willing to be a little bit risky, then you can try that as well as making it your home address. Maybe you can put some signage up or something. But, again, Google is getting smarter, so we have to be kind of wary of that. Another recommendation that I'd have, which maybe these are like the top three, is I believe I heard this from Darren Shaw of getting a back room in one of your friends' brick and mortar businesses. So, my mom runs a therapy company. So maybe if I was running a pest control company and trying to place a location, maybe ask her if she has a extra spare room in the back of her place that maybe I can rent out, or maybe I can endorse her somehow. Obviously, that's like, it's a kind of a strange example because it's my mom. But regardless, if you have a friend in your area that you can have a like a designated office, just like a tiny little room, maybe it's even a janitorial closet in their back. But if they're willing to let you do that, then that's a potentially free or much cheaper way to go about that. And yes, just to cap that off, location massively impacts ranking, but we have to check and see what our competitors are doing. And that's what I mentioned at the beginning of the call is if none of our competitors are doing it, then we probably don't need to. But if all of them are doing it, then we probably do need to.
Nice. Yeah, no, really good. Cody has asked, and I really like this question. It's a little bit more about sort of the processes. When you're managing a client's GBP, do you find it better to do certain things to their profile each month, or do you find that toying with things too frequently leads to more harm than good? And if you do kind of things each month, what do you focus on for those monthly tasks?
Yeah, so Google always loves to see owner activity across assets. So Google loves to see you active on your Google business profiles, so Google ads, your local service ads, all these different platforms. Google loves to see your personal owner activity on those assets. Specifically with Google Business Profile of some recurring tasks that you should do. I typically recommend, and usually it seems like this is the consensus across the local SEO community, is that you should be posting Google Business Profile posts or Google Business Profile updates once a week. That is perfectly fine. That keeps it fairly recent, fairly fresh. You don't have to go too crazy and go like every day. Or I see people say like, "Oh, we'll do it 5 times a day." Well, it doesn't have like a direct impact on ranking. I'd say it's almost more for conversions and just overall keeping the profile fresh. So we don't need to worry about that too much, but still, I do recommend getting Google Business Profile posts up once a week. We also want to make sure that we're getting reviews on a recurring basis. That's part of keeping the profile fresh and obviously replying to all of those. We want to make sure that we are uploading photos to the profile fairly regularly. So ideally, what I recommend is if we can teach our techs, which, in home services, there will be technicians. It might be different in other fields. But in home services, we teach our techs to take, a photo on each job and upload it to the profile. And they can even upload it from their own Google account. People may not know this, but you can upload photos to any Google business profile. So I'm a Google local guide and I upload photos to other Google business profiles all the time. This is something that you can do, and this is something that your technicians can do. And in that way, again, we can keep the profile fresh. We can keep it active. When people click on it, they're like, "Whoa, okay, this was just a day ago." And wow, was that down the street? Was that Jenny's house? Oh, no way! They were just working. They're just doing some work on Jenny's house. That's so awesome. And we really like to see that as well. Maybe the last thing that I'd recommend here is doing occasional Q&As. So we also recommend doing Q&As about once a month or so. Again, that's probably the least important of the ones that I've mentioned, but that is also helpful.
Nice one, thank you. Yeah, there's a few other sort of questions that we've had about things like the Q&As and the posts. So I think to sort of add those into your regular monthly SEO activity, makes total sense. And I think something that I've learned as well is to use just all of the features, as many of those GBP features as possible. Google presents them to business owners to update and to use and to help potential customers find you, learn as much as they can about you via your profile. So yeah, if it's a case of keeping them updated, keeping everything sort of filled in, fitting out all of the content and getting as much out of it as possible, then yeah, absolutely.
100%.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. That's been, yeah, absolutely brilliant. It's been, a real sort of a real lesson in lots of the website stuff surrounding GBP. So, I mean, I've definitely learned something. So yeah, I'm sure everyone else attending has as well. So yeah, thank you so much. You can follow Danny on social media. You can, hope it's okay to say, feel free to contact him with any additional questions. Um, I'm sure he'll be very happy to help. We are going to upload the webinar onto our YouTube channel. So if you want to watch the replay, head over to our YouTube and you can find it there. If you want to improve your local SEO, visit BrightLocal Academy for free video courses on all things local. We have got loads of courses on Google Business Profile, things like agency processes as well, auditing, reporting, local listings, local SEO for brands, loads of stuff happening there, and it's all for free. So sign up for our newsletter as well to find out when the next webinar will be and all of the latest news from BrightLocal. And also just to say that we actually have a Facebook community group. So if you are in this webinar and if you've got a few more questions or ideas or things that you want to ask or share, join our Facebook group. It's called the Local Pack. We will drop a link to that in the comments. We've got over 5,000 members there. So if you are not there, I would really recommend joining. So thanks again to Danny and to everyone who joined us today. And yeah, we will see you next time. Really great to see you and have a great rest of your day, a great rest of your week. And yeah, we'll hopefully see you all soon.
Thank you so much, Jenny. Yes, everyone, feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn, and you can ask me any follow-up questions. I know we kind of ran out of time here. I'd love to answer everyone's questions, and I'd love to do this for the whole day. Unfortunately, we can't, but I hope this was valuable. I hope this was helpful. And yeah, I totally vouch for everything BrightLocal does. The tool is amazing, and the YouTube channel is amazing. I totally recommend go binge all of the videos on the BrightLocal channel. They are outstanding.
Oh, thank you so much. That's so nice to hear.
Yeah, yeah,
Thank you again. Take care.
of course. Thank you, Jenny.
Thank you. Bye.